The GOP of old has grown stale and moss-covered. I don't think we need to name any names, do we? Our party is encumbered by an inconsistent approach to freedom. The new GOP will need to embrace liberty in both the economic and the personal sphere.
Well, that's Senator Rand Paul speaking at the Conservative Political Action Conference this weekend. The Kentucky Republican winning the presidential straw poll and raising questions about whether his libertarian views some thought once were too far out of the mainstream, could be a powerful and attractive factor for him in the 2016 presidential race. Joining me now, Bill Kristol. He's editor of the Weekly Standard and a Fox News contributor, and Larry O'Connor, who is co-host of WMAL's Mornings on the Mall in Washington and editor-in-chief of Breitbart TV. Gentlemen, welcome both. All right, so Bill, let me start with you. They are now talking about Rand Paul even more than they were before as the possible man to take the Republican Party forward in 2016. You have your doubts. Tell us.
Well, I do, because I agree with what he calls the GOP of old, the GOP of Reagan and Bush, and yes, McCain, even though you're not allowed to say his name, I suppose, to conservatives these days, on foreign policy. They were right about national security. The problem with the Obama administration isn't that it's pursuing the war on terror too aggressively, using too many drones, threatening to kill Americans, sitting at Starbucks. The problem with the Obama administration is that it's too weak abroad, and that is very dangerous for us. So I believe the Republican Party will end up nominating a national security hawk, not a Ron Paul neo-isolationist.
But before I bring Larry in, but when you saw the Republican field emerging in the last race, and Rand's dad, Ron, was running, some of those views that he had, the more isolationist views, were cheered. I mean, especially the younger crowd, really, that really spoke to them, and you heard them speaking about it openly and honestly. I mean, do you think, because, you know, your detractors say you're old school, and this is new school, and that, you know, old school thinking in the Republican Party will be replaced by people who are more like Rand Paul?
Well, the McGovernites said that about the old school Cold War liberals in the Democratic Party, and they did replace them, and they promptly lost 5 of the next 6 presidential elections. I'm not defending the old school. I'm a reformer. I'm very much for younger candidates. I'm for people who are younger than Rand Paul. Marco Rubio and Paul Ryan and Tom Cotton, who are all national security hawks, are younger than Rand Paul. So I'm all for having younger candidates, and I just think Rand Paul is too old.
Well, Larry, let me ask you, because Rand Paul, you know, these views are very similar to his dad's, Ron Paul's. And Ron Paul had, you know, huge followings, like rabid, in the nicest way, followers who really supported him. But he didn't get the nomination. In fact, he didn't really come close to getting the nomination. And what is to make us to believe that his son is going to do better than he did?
Well, first of all, I don't think he is Ron Paul. I covered the Ron Paul campaign quite a bit for Breitbart, and this is a lot different what Rand Paul is doing and how he ignited the CPAC throngs this weekend. And Rand Paul is on record. He has said that he won't take military intervention off the table when it comes to stopping Iran from acquiring a nuke. That's certainly not the same thing that Ron Paul believed. So there are differences there. But let's not forget, you know, we bring up the specter of Ronald Reagan, and I was a Reagan guy. I came to age politically under Ronald Reagan, and he had 3 legs to that Republican stool back then. You had the Christian Coalition, you had the defense hawks, but you also had the small government libertarians. And Ronald Reagan didn't preach small government because we couldn't afford it. No, we can't afford it, but he preached it because big federal government intervening in the lives of the American people goes against the founding documents. And you saw in the mid-90s when we balanced our budget, the Republicans lost the argument against big government because suddenly we could afford it, and look where we are now.
But it doesn't seem like Rand Paul is on different footing from a lot of these other Republicans when it comes to small government. He's on different footing when it comes to foreign affairs and our military intervention.
Well, both those positions are rooted in the founding documents and rooted in a constitutional argument. Now, you can make nuanced arguments one way or the other with regard to the drone strikes, but really, if you're getting lost if you think the filibuster for 12 hours was really about drones more than it was about seeing a Republican senator stand up and assert the constitutional role of the legislative branch against the executive branch. Mm-hmm. And he did something that the brilliant minds of the Republican caucus have not been able to do, and that is to win an argument against this president and make President Obama look very small.
That is an interesting point, Bill, is that, you know, forget for a moment your position on drones and the use of them, but Rand Paul got up and he challenged President Obama, and he wound up getting the answer, which was the answer he wanted. He pressured Eric Holder into coming out and saying, okay, no, I say, no, we won't use drones on American people who, we don't have evidence they're an imminent threat to the country. And so he did score a victory against the Obama White House. And the accusation is that other Republicans didn't have the courage to do it.
Well, I don't think other Republicans thought that was an important enough issue to fight on, and I happen to agree with him on that. But he got a statement, a two-sentence statement from Attorney General Holder. I don't know that increases the case. Presumably what Rand Paul should want is congressional legislation. Maybe he'll introduce it. Look, I admire his political entrepreneurship. As I said in an editorial, I wish more Republicans showed the spunk, the verve, the nerve that Rand Paul showed. But you can't just take the position that any kind of fight against Obama is great, and hey, if you embarrass him, that's great. Of course you can embarrass him in certain ways, but you got to look at the substance of the position. At the end of the day, Rand Paul is for retreat from the world. He's got a principled, more or less neo-isolationist view. He doesn't think we need to be on the offensive around the world. I think that's a dangerous policy. I'm happy to debate it. He has every right to make his views known. I think he's got some supporters in the party. I don't think there'll be a majority of the party.
Larry, some of his critics say that he will not be successful in getting the nomination nor in winning because he's, in his libertarian way, come out and criticized the Civil Rights Act, saying, look, you can't legislate people into not discriminating and so on. You have to let private business do what it's going to do, and then reject them. The consumers will reject them, and the cards will fall where they may. Do you view that as a major issue for him?
I don't. I think that was a Rachel Maddow gotcha moment that happened, I think, 1 week after he won the primary. He's a much more skilled politician now. And this is about imagery, and it's about being able to deliver a message. It was horrific to see Senator McCain come out there like a grumpy old man, decrying college libertarians in their dorm rooms getting excited about Rand Paul. If Senator McCain had some of those college libertarians on his side, he'd be President McCain right now and just not the angry man in the Senate trying to kill everybody's excitement.
Okay, we'll leave it at that. Good debate, gentlemen. Thank you both.